In this video, I'll be going over exercise 4.12 date class. In this exercise, we're instructed to create a class called date that includes 3 pieces of information as auto-implemented properties: a month, a day, and a year, all type int. Your class should have a constructor that initializes the 3 automatic properties and assumes that the values provided are correct. Provide a method displayDate that displays the month, day, and year separated by forward slashes. Write a test app named DateTest that demonstrates class date's capabilities. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in our using directive, which is using system because it's just this small app. And then we're going to create a class called date. So we should know how to create a class, public class, and we're going to call it date. And we're going to use our curly braces. And inside the class, we're going to include 3 pieces of information as auto-implemented properties. So let's look at our textbook at 4.7, section 4.7. And you can read more about it if you want to know more about auto-implemented properties. But what it says here is, with an auto-implemented property, the C# compiler automatically creates a hidden private instance variable and the get and set accessors for getting and setting that hidden instance variable, which means that the compiler automatically creates a backing field behind the scenes. So all you need to do is type in this one line of code. You can see it here in this coding example, that the auto-implemented property is simply this right here. You just say public, and for us, for this exercise, we're going to be using int because it's an integer, so we'll say public int, and then we're going to say our month, day, and year. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say public int, and then we're going to say month, and we're going to make sure it is capital. Oops. Wow. And we're going to use our curly braces, and we're going to type in get with a semicolon and set with a semicolon. We're going to do the same thing for day and year. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, and year. Again, these will be capital because they are the properties. Okay, so we do need a closing curly brace, and we'll say end class date. Okay. All right, so that's the first step. Create a class called date that includes 3 pieces of information as auto-implemented properties: a month, a day, and a year. All right, so the second step is your class should have a constructor that initializes the 3 automatic properties and assumes that the values provided are correct. So within our class, we're going to add a constructor. So initialize the properties. Okay, so constructor to initialize the properties. So what is a constructor? Again, let's look back at our book, and it'll be again within section 4.7, and you can see it here in the code example that they have. Now the instructor sets in this case, the name property. So the name property to parameter account name's value. So here is the parameter. So they have a public account. So again, this is in class account. They're creating a public account with the parameters of account name, and they're giving the name property. They're assigning the account name parameter to the name property. So we're going to do the same, except we'll be doing it with the month, day, and year properties, and we're going to assign them parameters of month, day, and year. So constructor should be public date with the with parentheses. In the parentheses is where we're going to write our parameters, which will be all type integers, so int, and then we'll have month. And remember, this is not going to be capital because our because our our properties here are capital. The properties are capital, the parameters are not capital. Okay, and now between each parameter, you'll have a comma. Okay, if you don't remember the comma, it's not going to work right. So we have our integer month, int day, and int year. And then we're going to have our curly braces. Okay, so we have our date with the parameters of month, day, and year. Now we're going to assign our property of month, and we're going to assign it the parameter of month. So month property capitalized, month the parameter not capitalized. And we're going to do the same with day and year. So day will be assigned the value of day, and year will be assigned the parameter of year, and that parameter will hold the value. So they don't have any values yet, but when we give them values, this parameter month will hold the value, and this property is holding that value, that parameter that has that value. Okay, so I'm probably not saying it most clear, but I think that's the basic concept here. You have a property and the parameter. So when you call the property, it's getting the value of this parameter. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, now, so we have created a constructor that initializes the three properties. Okay, now let's see, what is the next step? So now we're going to, provide a method display date that displays the month, day, and year separated by forward slashes. So still within the class date, we are going to create a method called display date. So, okay, so let's just write that so we know what we're doing. Method to display the date. And what we're going to do is we're going to use public void instead of int or something else because let's see what it says in the book actually. Public void, I believe, is section, where was it? Well, let me look it up. Okay. Okay, right here. So section 4.3.4. It says the return type void indicates that when set name, in this case they're using set name, okay, completes its task, it does not return any information to its calling method. So we're using void because it's not returning any value to its calling method, it's only displaying that value to the property. So the method takes those property values and formats them into, so it takes those property values and then it, the sole purpose in this situation for our exercise is simply to print it to the console. So it doesn't return a value to the caller. Instead, it performs an action, which is printing it to the console. So hopefully that kind of makes sense why we'll be using void, because we're not actually returning a value to the caller. We're only performing an action, which is printing it to the console. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to write our method as public void. And we're going to call it display date because that's what we were told to do. And because it's a method, we will have the parentheses, but we're not taking any parameters, so it'll just be blank, and we'll have our curly braces. All right, so that's our method, display date. And then we're going to display the month, day, and year separated by forward slashes. So in order to display something in console, we know we're just going to do a simple console dot write line. Now within this console dot write line, we're going to use the $sign because we're going to be using an interpolated string. Because we are going to be using the curly braces for an interpolated string, we're going to be calling in the month parameter and then a forward slash between curly braces, the day parameter, forward slash between, and the year. I'm sorry, not parameter, but the actual properties. So we're calling in the properties. We're calling in the property month, the property day, the property year. And then don't forget the semicolon. Oops, did I forget? Oh, I forgot my double quotes. All right, so begins and ends with double quotes. First, it has a $sign to say that it's representing an interpolated string, which will be month, day, and year. So we haven't given them any values yet, but when they do have values, those what will display will be those values. So a method to display the date with forward slashes between them. All right, we got that. So what's the next step? The next step is write a test app named Date Test that demonstrates class date's capabilities. So this date test will be outside of the class date. So make sure there's the closing curly brace here. That's the end of the class date, the date class, okay? We want this date test outside of the date class. Okay, so what we're gonna do is write class date test and our curly braces, and within our curly braces we will have let's see, we're going to create a new instance of date. So we're going to say date, and let's just call this, we'll do maybe two of them. So let's call this date 1, and then we'll assign it the value of a new instance of date. And that new instance will be whatever you want the date to be. So today's day is September, and we'll put a comma between the month, and today is the 6th, the day, and the year is 2024. So this is our new instance of date. We're giving that value. We're giving the value here to date, which is month, day, and year. And this will be month, day, and year because it's separated by those commas. All right, now we will display the date. So we're going to say, we're going to take our new date 1 instance, and then we're going to say date 1, our new instance of date is date 1 dot, and this is how we'll call the display date method, dot display date. And then we're going to use the parentheses, the parentheses to call that method of display date. So date 1 dot display date. I don't know why it's saying that. No. Oh. What are these errors here now? Oh. Let's see. Okay. Date 1, dot display date. Why is that not working? 42. Oh. Okay, and then sometimes it does not exist in the current context. Why would that be? Oh, ugh, I am so silly. I forgot that in order to run this program, you need a main method. So, of course, we need our static void main. Oops. And then we will have, we'll be taking in string. And okay. All right, and then our curly braces. Okay, there we go. All right, now this does need the semicolon, and that's still wrong for some reason. Oh, I deleted that one too. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right, now we're going to do the same thing with a second date. So we'll say date 2, and we'll assign it a new value, and the date will be, I don't know. Okay. And we'll do the same thing, date 2, and then we'll call in the display date method. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to say these are the value for the instance of date 1. This is these are the values of the instance of date 2. In our display date, it's going to write out, so it says date 1 and date 2 dot display date. So it'll say this is the value of day, a month, day, and year, and it's going to write it out with these values of month, day, and year with the slashes between them. So let's go ahead and run it and see if it's going to print to the console correctly. I don't know why my computer keeps running so slow now. All right, so now you can see both the date 1 and date 2 have printed on there. this is what the assignment asks. This is good enough. You can, however, let's go ahead and also add a read line so that way we won't have all that extra writing at the bottom of the console. All right, now that's all you need to do for the assignment, but really that's the only thing that you're going to see, which is fine. That's what the assignment asks for. But I encourage you, as always, to really make it your own and really add like some like visual things. You can add testing. So if you want, you could add like some validation for like if the month is greater than 12 or less than 1, or the year is within, you can add your own like validation and things like that, or you can simply add some console.write lines to make your UI here look a little bit better. Like for instance, right now these are coming up, everything's working, that's all you need, that's great. But you can also add things like let's see. Okay, before you display the date, we can do a console.write line maybe. And you can say like date number 1. Make sure you use the semicolon. All right. You can do the same for date number 2, but let's kind of see how that looks. Okay, so you can see date number 1, but there's no space between them. There's no date number 2. So if you want, you can go ahead and say, like when it displays, so console.write line, and then we can add a \n, and that will give an empty line after it. And then we can also do console.write line to display the date number 2. Oops. And let's see how that looks. I'm sorry, my computer is just running really, really slow today. I do not know why. All right, and you can see that looks just a little bit better. You can maybe even do like a tab between, whatever, however you want to do it. You can, it's just kind of adding a label to it so you can see the 2 different dates. You can even just add a space between, whatever you want to do to really just kind of make it your own thing. But like I said, following this video, it will get, it does include everything that the exercise, all the instructions included in the exercise. So if you just do that, that should be good enough. But I really encourage, as always, to really just make it your own. All right. I hope this helped you guys. These videos always help me because it helps me to have a better understanding, but it also helps me with like speaking and stuff too. But if there's anything you didn't really understand or you need more help on, just reach out to me. I'm going to continue to do these videos for myself and to help anyone who needs help or isn't understanding it. All right, so that's this video, guys. Again, just reach out to me if you need anything. Thanks.